Right, we are talking about types of data that could be valuable, but that might not be available. That was sort of overall the question, right?
Yeah, so I guess the question that we would like to try to answer was about which types of data do people have that they're not willing to give to the market because they think it's sensitive.
Yeah.
But it might still be of value.
Any conclusion there or any input from the group?
Yeah, so I think we had 3 different sessions, and I mean there were some recurring themes, and then there were some different things that came up. So you want me to mention some of them?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so first of all, which was a recurring thing, was that stuff about users' info for both private and corporate consumers, both for privacy reasons but also for financial reasons. Second, and I did not know that before we started, but lots of information about the structure of the infrastructure of the grid, where there are weak spots and so on and so forth, stuff that people can use to manipulate the price. Then there's a lot of details about production costs and profits and so on. I mean, financial info about the operating of the different players. And finally, there was, and I think that's quite interesting, some questions about public data. For instance, the BBR register about what types of installations there are at different places. And I think this ties very nicely into a lot of discussion which is going on in Denmark right now about open data and setting public data free. So I think there's some interesting things in that.
But one part of it, I guess, was to identify the types of data that were perhaps hidden today or not available. But did you get to the point where you could sort of say, why would these types of data be valuable? In what way to the market, to the end consumer? Did you go that far?
I think that not specifically to the end consumer, but I think in terms of, maybe more in terms of pricing, which type of information, for instance, about how is the grid structured. I mean, that seemed like something which came up, and that seemed like an important type of data, because that data is not available, and maybe it's available for a reason, but it might also be used in positive ways.
Mm-hmm. Did it all get to the point where you could make a ranking? I mean, if we get, I don't know, these 2 or 3 types of data, it will really move this ship.
I think, I mean, at least from the perspective of the ones who are selling power, it seems like having as detailed information as possible about the users, and I mean that's really no surprise. But it was also the overall recurring theme, so I think that that seems like a very important piece of data, and I think it relates a lot to debates about, for instance, I mean, from a corporate perspective, what type of information do we want to reveal, but also from private consumers in terms of new European privacy protection laws which are underway, and how it fits in with that type of thing.
And finally, I mean, you can't, I guess, discuss data or availability of data without talking about why aren't they available? I mean, did you get any input across the group circulating? Why is it actually that they're not available? There might be some people here who know why, who might be hiding data.
Some people might know why. We did not discuss that.
Okay.
I mean, some are, for instance, information about production costs. I think it's just not available for historic reasons, and because it was my impression. But I mean, I guess some of the participants have better ideas about it than that. But it seemed, some of it seemed like it's just the way it's been.
Okay.
And then of course there are data about usage patterns, which seemed more like this has not been available previously, and now people are talking about how to make it available.
Okay. Any new surprising insights, aha experiences, or is that asking too much?
I wouldn't say any surprising insights, but I think I mean, most of the things, I mean, for instance, the stuff about the grid infrastructure was not something that I personally knew about before, but I'm sure that many of the people who work with smart grids intensively, they knew this, and so from that point of view, I learned something at least.
Which I guess is also a value. Or?
Well, for me,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Any input, any comments? Any questions you might want to ask? Jakob? If not,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Mirko, why not?
I'll just get my notes.
Yeah, please do. Okay, in Mirko's workstation, it was there was a focus on consumer behavior. I just wondered when I saw the questions and also just listened in once in a while. I'd like to ask you, didn't anyone challenge you on the very premise of the questions that we need in some way or other to make users or consumers behave in different ways, that we put that load on them? Anyone challenged you on that?
I wouldn't say that they challenged particularly the notion that we needed to somehow change our behavior or behavior change in general, but how we would go about it. So is the behavioral change by some sort of regulation? So we get told what to do and what's best for us, and we just have to do it that way. Or that we make our own conscious decisions and changing our behavior because we feel something is too expensive, or something we need to act in a different way to save our planet, or something like that. So is it something that we consciously do, or just get told and hear new defaults that you move with?
Okay. And what were the kinds of or types of personas that you were working with, and I guess discussing who would benefit or who could benefit from these changes, and who might be hit by these changes, or this change of pricing?
What was a little bit of a surprise there was that the majority of people in the groups focused very much on end consumers like you and me, like a family or an elderly couple or some students or a residential area. So less on the factories, on the energy intensive organizations or companies. So it was more what you and I can maybe relate to more than a bigger industrial corporation or something. So that was maybe more of a surprise that we moved that in particular after maybe 3 out of the 4 talks this morning mainly focused on that point.
Okay. And was the general consensus that end consumers would eventually benefit from dynamic pricing, whatever you've been discussing today?
I think the general consensus was that they don't. That maybe they have a bigger need of adapting, not because of pricing, but because they want to, because it's something that feels right to them, that they want to save energy or they want to make a change in their behavior in doing some things. But pricing is, of course, a way of trying to influence them or give them incentives, but it's not the main point which makes them change their behavior.
Okay, so you were, I guess, not able to sort of pinpoint the tipping point where you know or think you know that they will start behaving in a more rational way and reducing costs thereby.
We didn't come up with a number, no.
Okay.
42 was mentioned sometimes.
But you didn't agree on that. Okay. But coming back to the basic question, I think you ended up discussing. I mean, the basic question was: is it because I want to do this, or is it because somebody tells me to, or can convince me, or there are good reasons for me to do so? Did you end up with some kind of compromise on that one?
What we ended up is in the 3 groups we just listed what do we need to know more about, so we defined a topic and then how we would go about doing it, and just sort of some examples. We wanted to look at what are actually the incentives for families, so what is the greater good and how can we go about it, maybe sort of some infomercial type of work. Maybe that's something that is closer to the industry side was, you know, how can they more cleverly use energy consumption? So it might increase the energy consumption as a whole, but overall it might reduce their costs or increase their profits somehow. So some clever way of doing it, and this more in sort of a field trial way. And then maybe on the theoretical basis, where we challenge the whole notion of it, we were looking at, you know, should we give more information to people so that they can make themselves good decisions? Or should we just say, an authority makes a decision for them and they just need to implement it? And there was a bit of conflict of interest in particular in the final group, where we said then maybe methodology would be to look at it from a comparative perspective, seeing if we can have 2 user groups that are treated in these 2 different ways and seeing which comes out the better in the long run. So
Yeah, because I guess this ties in with the question or with the notion that David mentioned during the interview we also did, that why put the, I think he called it the cognitive burden on this poor consumer of making choices based on whatever information that we're able to convey.
Yeah.
That is a crucial issue, I guess, also from the discussions that you have.
Yeah, my background is in the Internet of Things.
Hmm.
So when I think of the Internet of Things, I think about that it generates a lot of data. So we have two choices in dealing with this data. One, to provide this data to people and they can make better decisions based on this data, or to make some processes more automated. And it's probably going to be the latter that's more attractive, because it is not in our nature that we become economists, that we make decisions at the margin with all the information that is available to us. We don't go out like the stand-up economist says into the supermarket and buy an orange, and then I buy another orange and another orange. I make big decisions that might not be rational because I might not eat all of the oranges that I'm buying, but it's something that is maybe not in our nature. So we might need these automated systems that make the decisions for us. But that's still a long step to go and say maybe it's an authority that does it for us. So I think there's also maybe a conflict in what we're saying is we can't trust or can we trust the organizations still that have apparently or to some degree mistreated us or misinformed us so far? What changes now that it does that? So I think there needs to be both. Both need to coexist alongside each other. Always some other people, maybe some individuals that are interested in the data, challenging the authority that tells you this is the right thing to do.
Any other insights or conclusions that you might have drawn based on your discussions?
No, it was a fantastic day, very interesting. So,
okay, good to hear.
That's all.
Anyone who wants to challenge Mirko on that one?
Any
comments or
misrepresentation of people's opinion up on the board? Please say it now. Otherwise, this is what we said.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Luis. So perhaps we should have started out with you, because as far as I can gather from sort of the task here, or the question, it was sort of the overall very broad but I guess crucial question of what are the costs and benefits of developing a smart grid, and what is the answer to that one?
Well, unfortunately, there is no precise answer to that, first of all, because what the smart grid means to different people working either on the project development side or on the policy making side is very different. So we had the excellent opportunity of interacting with people working in project development, project implementation from a technical perspective, from the engineering perspective, for example. And we also had the interesting participation of people on the policy making side. So it was very different. It was very different. For some people, saying that it reduces to rolling out smart meters was far too simplistic. Mm-hmm. For other people's, saying that they agree with the view that smart grid development is about flexibilizing demand. That's basically, or reducing the costs for intervening in the market by the balancing responsible parties and the DSOs and TSOs. So that was the first challenge in answering the question. But anyway, we got interesting perspectives, and anyway, the basic motivation behind this was that we found out that there is a gap in the literature dealing with systematic cost-benefit analysis from for project development, for smart grid project development. Mm-hmm. And one of the observations that we were able to find was that there is some difficulty in reconciling a societal perspective of all these smart grid projects and of the smart grid concept as a whole, and comparing that to the business perspective. So one of the conclusions that we had from people involved in the companies was that either there is a business case or there is no smart grid development. Mm-hmm. So Actually, we got some interesting insights into this. Yeah.
And these different parties, so to speak, that you had around your table, did you feel that there was some common ground upon which they could meet, or how did you facilitate that?
Well, I think many. I kept. I was fortunate to find similarities in the opinions by the different groups I was able to facilitate, and so in that sense there is common ground. There is common ground. Yes, there is. Anyway, everybody agreed that the cost benefit analysis would be favorable in general terms. That the benefits would outweigh the costs.
Okay.
So that was an important agreement that I was able to find.
I don't know if you got that far, because you obviously had a very fruitful discussion there, but part of the assignment, as far as I read it as well, was to discuss what would the impact on end consumers be if smart grids were actually realized, and also how about financing? How should that come about? You might have touched upon it with your business case.
Well, I got interesting responses, ranging from it is not beneficial.
Okay.
It's not beneficial for according to some.
Because the savings or reduction of costs would be minimal,
or rather than that, for instance, rolling out smart meters is something that should not be paid by everyone. Although the benefits are general, they should not be afforded by every consumer, given consumer heterogeneity. That was one position. Another more pragmatic position, I would say, was okay, we come from a company who carried out this. We were successful enough to do this. We had to, for sure, consumers will have to pay for this. We will have to finance it through the bills on a given period of time, but doing that analysis, that stakeholder perspective analysis, as opposed to a societal perspective analysis, it allowed them to determine that it was beneficial overall. So the conclusion is that someone will have to pay the bill, and most likely there will be an impact on the consumer. But there is also the perspective, there is also the understanding that there is a general benefit of incurring in the smart grid development, whatever it is, for whatever it means for everyone. Understanding also the heterogeneity of concepts that there is.
Any other insights, conclusions that you might want to share with the audience here, or anyone who wants to challenge Luis on any of the conclusions? Feel free.
I hope I'm not challenged.
If not, thanks very much. That concludes the wrap-up, I guess, and I think we have a new speaker on the floor.
Just to wrap up the wrap-up.
Yeah.
Can we have the speakers come down here? I see at least a couple here. David, Robert. Yes. Right. Because we do have. Unfortunately, we don't get to thank Ivan from Dong. So yeah, the media wants us to come closer to over here. So Ivan from Dong unfortunately had to leave and could not be here for this. So we already gave him his present, but let's distribute some wine. They are the content is slightly different, but same quality, we hope. Okay, so yeah, thanks everyone and for coming, and give the speakers a hand before we